if last year was a sign of how much things are going to be going up in prices, I mean, when it comes to plants, yeah, I'm starting a bunch of things from seed this year. Have you heard of winter sowing before? Do you winter sow any of your seeds? If you have no idea what I'm talking about or would like to know more about winter sowing, just stick around because that's what I'm going to do today in this video. Hey gorgeous, welcome. My name is Roxana and I garden in Zone 5. I am in central Indiana. I am really right at the border of Zone 6 and 5, but I consider myself a Zone 5 gardener. And as you can see, I am starting a lot of things from seed. And if you're new here, welcome. If you are coming back again, I am so glad that you're here. Today I'm just going to show you all of the winter sow and all of the seeds that I'm going to try to winter sow, and I am very excited because last year I had a lot of success with my winter sowing. And if you want to see those two videos, I am going to link those below. The first one where I did my setup and the second one where I show you what was growing and what didn't. So today I am going to be using the same technique that I used last year. And I am using one of these clear containers, clear bins or containers, buckets, whatever you call them. I got this one at Meijer. I went and checked all of the sizes and types that they had, and I chose the thickest one that they have, clear, thick container. And I am going to be using 3 of them this year. Last year I only used 1 because I wasn't sure how it was going to work out for me. But once I realized that the seeds that I put in there did amazing, I just decided to do 3 this year. We'll see how that goes. I have a bunch of new seeds that I'm going to try to winter sow, and I'm excited. I'm hopeful that they're going to do okay. So I got this bin, and I already made holes on the top, on the lid. Not really sure that I can show you that on the video. I got a bunch of holes in there for the water, for the snow to access the plants, the containers in there. And the main container, which is going to work as our greenhouse, has holes at the bottom. Hopefully you can see those. And that's going to be basically used for drainage. I don't want any of the snow, any of the water that is going to be getting in those containers to just be sitting there. Whatever technique you're using for winter sowing, just make sure that the water in the snow that is going to be happening outside can get through them, but also can escape the container that you have. And I actually have a lot of seeds that I need to start today. So I mentioned that I have 3 bins. Each bin can hold 40 of these little 2.5-inch containers, which is a lot. That means that I am going to be starting 120 containers today, 120 of them with 2 or 3 seeds each. And hopefully here at the beginning of April, I can show you what's growing or what isn't growing. And if you haven't started this before, if you have never tried winter sowing, I hope that this video helps you or maybe encourage you to try it at home. As I am working with the seeds, as I am getting them in their containers, I am going to be talking about them, telling you what they are. I am getting a bunch of white dill. This one is new for me. I haven't tried it, but since last year I tried this beautiful chocolate amidara, I just fell in love. So this one is a type of ami. It is a false queen Anne lace. Meaning it's just not going to spray around. It's not going to be like over invasive. If you remember the amidara that I grew last year in the containers, this one is just the same but white, and I think that's going to be amazing. And what I'm going to be using, I already have it here. Hopefully you can see it. It's just a container with potting mix, whatever potting mix you want to use. And I am going to treat these winter sowing containers as single containers, meaning that I am just going to put 2 to 3 seeds per container. Hopefully one of them germinates, and that way they can just grow on their own. Last year I found with a couple of things that I grew in one container with multiple seeds, what I found out is that the seeds were just so grown around each other that it was hard for me to divide. So this year, that's why I decided to use these little guys, these 2.5-inch containers, and hopefully they do well. So like I mentioned, I'm only going to put 3 seeds, and I'm going to gently tap them in, cover them very gently with the soil, because they're so tiny. Perfect. So that's all for white dill. And next I am going to start some Shasta daisies. These are perennial in my zone, in zone 5. And I never tried them from seed. I know that I had a couple of varieties of Shasta daisies in my garden. 2 of them died. I think it was my fault because I dug a little too much to separate them. And I'm hoping that I can just add a couple more because I love the look of Shasta daisies in the garden. And again, I am going to put 2 or 3 seeds per container. And if for some reason they all germinate and I feel like it's just too much, I can decide whether to divide or I can just thin them very, very easily. Even though I hate to thin seedlings, I absolutely hate, and that's probably why I end up with so many tomatoes. Maybe I can be brave and actually thin these ones if they all germinate. And some of these seeds, like the white dill and actually a lot of the ones that I'm starting for winter sowing, I either already try indoors. I am trying them indoors to get them growing indoors, or also some of the ones that I'll show you, it's not time yet, but I will try them indoors as well, just because I want to make sure that I will have some plants. Some of these plants are a repeat from last year that I tried for winter sowing, and I know they do well, like Verbena bonariensis. I know that it did amazing last year, so I am not going to try it indoors, but there are others that it's my first time growing them with winter sowing, and I just don't want to risk not having any of those plants, so just going to play it safe. So here it is, Verbena bonariensis, and these are older seeds. These are older seeds that I got. One I got last year and the other one I got 2 years ago, and I have plenty of seeds for all of these containers. And again, I'm just going to try a couple of seeds per container because I already know that Verbena bonariensis does very well with winter sowing. So if you haven't tried it, oh my goodness, it was amazing in my garden. Absolutely amazing. So magical and whimsical looking, and I am really hoping that it reseeds where I had it. A lot of people say that it's a great reseeder. We'll see how it does for me. So what is winter sowing? What am I talking about? If you have no idea what I'm doing here, in plain language, winter sowing is the process of starting seeds outdoors during the winter months. You use some sort of container that it acts as a protection for the seeds. It allows the light to reach the seeds, the containers, but it also acts as a little greenhouse for the seeds. So during the colder months, during the winter months, the seeds go through the period of cold, which they naturally do in nature. And once the weather starts getting slightly warmer in the early spring, the heat inside the container in the little greenhouse that you have provided for them, it adds a little bit of warmth so that the seeds get that signal that it's time for them to germinate and to start growing. The seeds for the verbena are so tiny that I'm probably going a little bit crazy with how many I'm putting here, but that's okay because I'm going for numbers here. And actually, Verbena bonariensis was one of the easiest to divide. I believe that I showed you how I did that last year. I put them in a container in a raised bed, and I had a couple of containers that I put a bunch of seeds in, and they were easier to divide. Next one, I have Scabiosa. This one is Salmon Queen, and I love Scabiosa. I have not been able to get this going. I had a couple of failures last year indoors, and I believe that I had one tiny plant outside during with winter sowing that it germinated. So I'm going to add extra seeds this time. And I am definitely going for way more than I need. So just in case, I am going to try 4 seeds per container. Really want to get some plants this year. Also going to be trying Victoria Blue Salvia, which I love. So when is winter sowing done? If your garden is located in zones 1 through 7, your time for starting winter sowing can be done from January through March, even as late as April for things that don't need extreme cold. I am in zone 5 here in Indiana, and last year I started my winter sowing in the middle of March, and I thought it was going to be a little bit late, but the plants that I grew were completely amazing. And this year, because I am starting quite a few more and I have a bunch of perennials and also things that are cold hardy, I just want to give them plenty of time to go through those cold months to that period of stratification. But if you have never tried winter sowing and you live in a cold climate, you have plenty of time to get your seeds, to get your containers, and to prepare for it. For people that live in warmer zones, from zones 8 and above, I believe, but I'm not quite sure, you will have to check with somebody in your zone, that you have from September through February to get this done. But again, I don't garden in these warm zones, so I actually had to Google that for warmer zones. If you live in a warmer zone, just let me know in a comment. So I have about 3 to 4 seeds here of Victoria Blue Salvia. I'm very excited about this one because I love this Victoria Blue Salvia. Last year I had a bunch way late in the season. I mean, it kept on blooming and blooming. People start all kinds of seeds with the winter sowing method. Perennials, annuals, even peppers and tomatoes. Things that you normally wouldn't think that will do well outside in the cold temperatures. But obviously, if you are growing perennials or hardy annuals that can handle the cold, you definitely want to start them when winter is happening, when you're going to start getting all those temperatures outside. And the same thing if you are starting warm loving plants. You want to maybe wait a little bit later when the temperatures are getting slightly warmer outside to start those things with winter sowing. I'm personally not going to start any of my tomatoes or peppers outside just because I have a setup here where I can get them going. The next seed that I am going to start is this Scarlet Sage Salvia. This is a red salvia that the hummingbirds just love. I collected these seeds a couple of years ago. These are not new seeds from this year. These are from 2 years ago. And I hope that they are viable. We'll see. Plenty of seeds there. And again, this Scarlet Sage Salvia, it's one that I am going to try indoors as well, just in case winter sowing doesn't work for them. And next, I have this gorgeous Long Island Mammoth Dill. Look at that. And I don't need that many plants. I just need 3 good plants. So I am putting about 3 seeds in here. And I don't think that I'll start any of them indoors just because I already will start the white dill. And that will be plenty of those type of plants if these guys don't make it. Okay, so I had to do a little bit of troubleshooting just now. The way that I was planning to put my 2.5-inch containers here in this bin, it was just by themselves with nothing really holding the containers, and I was having trouble keeping them all nice and secure without falling over. So what I did is that I used one of these shallow trays with holes. This one is the mesh kind. It's a 10 by 20 and it fits nicely in there. That's where I have all 32 of these little containers, and I have one little row at the very end with them standing up by themselves, and against the tray they're nice and secure. I do have the trays, the inserts that I bought to hold it 2.5-inch little containers. However, they are just a little bit, they stick out here at the end just enough so that it doesn't completely fit nicely against the bottom of this bin. So I simply use one of these guys, 110 by 20, to hold it. That's something that I really didn't think about it when I purchased these containers. And now, looking back, I wish that I would have taken one of these with the trays and just fit it in there against the bin that I was going to buy. But, oh well, this works for me. I have plenty of the shallow mesh trays, and this guy is done. And once I place the lid in here, right here, this guy with the other two all together are going to go in one of my raised beds, and I am choosing to put them there because they will have full sun. They will be protective. I'm going to put some maybe bricks against them just in case we get a really windy day. But this is basically a small greenhouse, you guys, with the containers inside. And it's nicely secure with the containers. No wild animals going to get in here. It is protected from the wind, the snow, and the rain can't get through the holes that I made on the top. And the drainage holes underneath this bin that I also made is going to allow for that water, for that snow to get out, just in case there's just too much. Do make sure that wherever you're using, you have drainage holes and you have access for the water to get in. Otherwise, you're just going to be looking for trouble. Here's one with 40 little containers in there. Another variety that I am going to start today with winter stone is this beautiful Cosmos. This one is Apricot Cosmos, and it's an absolutely gorgeous pink. And I don't think that I have tried that before in my garden. I have tried Cosmos, but not this type. So if you have never tried winter sowing before, you might be thinking, well, Roxana, then I can just put the seeds that I have, put them in planters and put them straight outside, right? With nothing to worry. And it's not entirely true. You're going to need some sort of protection for the containers that you choose to use. One, because you want to make sure that the wild animals don't get to them, right? They don't start digging in your containers. And two, you want to create that greenhouse effect. Once the days start getting warmer, you want to make sure that you have that extra heat for the plants that are growing inside your greenhouses. So what kind of supplies do you need for winter sowing? And this is going to depend entirely on who you ask, especially for those people who have been doing this for years. People get used to doing their own thing, especially if it works. People just love to share what it works for them. But there are a lot of ways to do winter sowing. There are a lot of ways to treat those seeds, to protect those seeds. My first year trying winter sowing, I used empty water containers, the 1 gallon containers that you can find at your local grocery store. I saved those from the months before of buying water. I make some drainage holes, opening in the middle, added some seed starting mix and some seeds. I sealed the opening with some tape and I move them outside, making sure not to put the lids back on so that the rain and the snow will have a place where to get in. And I completely left those containers outside and I didn't look at them again. And I think that was one of the contributing reasons why I completely failed. Nothing germinated, not one seed germinated in those containers. See, even though rain and snow are supposed to keep the moisture inside your containers, whatever you use, you are supposed to keep an eye on those. If you have weeks where you don't have any snow or any rain, you're supposed to go and check and give them water if they need it. You're not supposed to let them be, like I did my first year. But people use all kinds of containers and they really get creative. Milk jugs, the clear kind, 2-liter bottles, Ziploc bags, the large clear containers with lids that you get from buying salad at the store, empty clear bins like the one that I'm using today. As long as whatever container you're using is nice and solid, it's going to be able to let the light through and become a protection from the wild animals and the weather outside, then you can use a lot of those things. I am also starting another type of Cosmos, which is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, double click cranberry Cosmos. I love this color of Cosmos. And I purchased these seeds from Outside Pry. If you have never heard of Outside Pry, you are missing out. So like I mentioned, the first year that I tried winter sowing, I failed miserably. Not one seed germinated. So the second year, which was last year, I didn't think about doing any more winter sowing because of the previous year. But sometime in March, I saw my friend Maureen from Instagram, Parsons and Peonies. She was showing some pictures, some stories on her Instagram about her winter sowing. She had a few bins and she was showing some things that she was doing. And I thought, what is that? Because up until that point, I thought that winter sowing was merely done with milk jugs or empty 2-liter bottles. And I wasn't sure what she was talking about. So I asked her, she showed me, and I was hooked. It is because of her that I kept on going with winter sowing. And that's the power of social media, you guys. So I tried it even though it was March. It was kind of late in the season to start winter sowing. It was kind of later for the seeds that I wanted to start. I decided why not, and I added some seeds that I really didn't care if they didn't germinate. But I tried it. I only had one bin with a bunch of containers, and the containers that I used last year were the containers that I purchased my annuals or things that I purchased throughout the year. I had a bunch of those little containers, and that's what I used, and I gave it a go. I didn't have anything to lose because a lot of those seeds I was going to be starting indoors, or they were already growing indoors anyway. So that's what I did, and I had amazing results. And I am so glad that I didn't give up, that I tried it again, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing this today. This one right here is new for me. This one is lion's ear, and I have never grown that, nor I have ever personally come in contact with one of them. And I actually saw it as a dry flower. Somebody had it as a dry flower, and I kind of fell in love with it, so I went and looked for a bunch of seeds. I am going to be starting a bunch of these lion's ears inside, but I do want to give them a try outside with winter sowing. I have to break this. So I am going to try a couple of seeds. The next one that I am going to start is Persian cress. And again, I saw this one as a dry flower, as a dry foliage, because the foliage I think is just amazing. So I want to give it a try. And I am going to start that one indoors as well. This is one of the plants that are new for me this year that I'm very excited about. I think that it gets pretty tall too. It gets about 36 to 40 inches tall, which I might have to buy the neighbor's property so that I can have space for all of these plants. This one that I am starting here, a bunch of them, is lavender. And because I already have a bunch of them inside, that I did the 24-hour freezer trick, which I'm not gonna give it away, but I'll show you the results maybe next week. So I got all of these because I got all of the seeds from Johnny's. So I wanna try, I wanna get a bunch of lavender this year because I wanna make a few little hedges maybe. I don't know yet, but I want to have plenty. I want to have plenty to work with. And I mean, if last year was a sign of how much things are going to be going up in prices. I mean, when it comes to plants. Yeah, I'm starting a bunch of things from seed this year. And I'm not even trying to bury the seeds. I'm just trying to make everything nice and flat. So what are some of the reasons that anybody will wanna use winter sowing for starting their own seeds? If you don't have the space to set up lights and shelves and all those things indoors, then winter sowing is the best option for you as far as starting seeds. But if you do already have the space where you start your own seeds and do everything inside, then winter sowing can be space saving inside, because you can start a bunch of things that you know are going to do well outside, and it can free up space for you indoors to try other types of seeds. So in a way, for me, it's having a bunch of extra shelves outside for starting seeds. And as I start my winter sowing year after year, this is my second year trying it, I can start making a list of seeds that do well with winter sowing, so that year after year, I trust that those seeds are going to do well outside, and then I don't have to worry about trying them indoors as well. You also don't need any special equipment like you would for things that you start indoors, like lights, shelves, containers, all of that. As long as you decide what you want to use for your winter sowing, whether if it's a bin, milk jugs, whatever you choose to use, it's not hard to find. Okay, I filled the rest of my containers with potted mix, and I am also trying this gorgeous Pampas Plume Celosia. I have never grown celosia, so I also am not even sure that's how you say it. Celosia, I don't know. Oh my gosh, very tiny seeds, very tiny seeds. Okay, so light is required for germination, so I'm not even going to touch these guys. They're just going to lay where they lay, and good luck. Another piece of information that I want to mention about growing seeds with the winter method is that a lot of people feel really strongly about using either seed starting mix or regular potting mix. And some people have their own opinions, some people have their own preference about what to use or what not to use. And I personally just use potting mix because the first year that I tried those seeds with the milk jugs, not the milk jugs, the clear containers, I use regular seed starting mix. And I'm not saying that I fail because I use seed starting mix. I know that a lot of people use seed starting mix for winter sowing, but the way that I think about it, the way that I make sense in my head is that if I am trying to mimic the way that nature works with the seeds, then I don't need to provide a fluffy, fine type of soil for the seeds, because in nature, they don't get that, right? They fall where they fall and they'll grow. I mean, I have nasturtiums growing in between bricks because that's what they got, right? And I'm not saying, hear me on this, I'm not saying that if you use seed starting mix, you're going to fail with winter sowing. That's completely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I prefer to use potting mix. If you wanna try using one or the other, just try it. My advice has always been, try it, see if it works, and if it works, keep on doing it that way. Okay, so this guy, I know that I just showed you in my last video, or one of my last videos, how I am starting it from seed. This is Rudbeckia, this is Sahara Rudbeckia, and then I am giving them a try with winter sowing as well. I'm very excited about Rudbeckia. And the same thing with my other Rudbeckia with Cherry Brandy. If you have grown Rudbeckia with the winter sowing method, would you let me know in the comments how it does for you? Because I am intrigued by Rudbeckia. I don't know what it is. So what are the cons of starting winter sowing? Why would you not want to start winter sowing? And I think one of the main reasons why a lot of people don't try it this way is because it could be an eyesore in your property, in your raised beds, along the walls of your house, whatever you choose to put it. it could really be something that is not appealing to the eye, especially if you have some sort of homeowners association that doesn't let you do that. But I will think that that's one of the things that they might say no to, having a bunch of milk jugs or containers outside, you know, just collecting snow. But you know, if you start a bunch of plants in milk jugs, you're gonna have to put them somewhere in your backyard where they can get the sunshine, and that might not be the best look for you, but that's really for you to decide. Another reason why you wouldn't want to start it is because it really takes time for the plants to show any signs of growing. If you start seeds indoors, you can get results in 1 to 2 weeks depending on the seeds. You can start seeing things germinating and growing, and that's not what it happens with winter sowing. We are in the middle of February now, so all of these bins are going to go outside, and I'll probably won't be able to see anything until maybe the beginning of April. So they're going to stay all of this time outside, and I won't be able to know if things are working. This next one, oh my gosh, smells so good. Siberian wallflower, and I think that I am going to try to get different types of wallflowers. I watched a video of this lady, I can't remember her name, she's from the UK, and she was showcasing all kinds of wallflowers, and there are a couple that she showed that I want to get, but I don't know if I can get seeds here in the US. If you have wallflower seeds in different colors, would you let me know, because I would love to buy them from you. But I am going to look for different colors. This is one that I found locally. I think that I got this one at Lowe's, but it is a Siberian wallflower, and I'm obsessed with this kind of flowers. So again, I have never grown before, and I am just going to try them outside with winter sowing. Hopefully I get something. But I do want to save some seeds to start them indoors, because again, I never grown them before, so I don't know if they'll even grow outside this way. Another con of starting seeds with winter sowing is that because of the constant humidity in the containers, especially in the big containers like mine, that constant humidity could create problems. So you can start seeing mold showing up, and the risk of fungal disease is just higher that way. On another note though, I don't know if I mentioned this as being an advantage of starting seeds this way, is that you don't have to deal with fungus gnats because the containers are outside. Almost there. So the last seeds that I am starting, I forgot that I had them here on the side, are snapdragons. And I have a bunch of seeds for snapdragons. And this kind that I'm trying here is the Madame Butterfly Red, which I also started indoors. 4. $120 plants, you guys. 120. That's a lot of plants. So what do you think? Will you be trying winter sowing in your own place? Let me know in the comments, or let me know what you think about this video, and I hope that you come back and see everything else that I have going. The germination is amazing in this room. Things are growing, things are taking off, and I cannot wait to show you. Thank you for being here, you guys, and until next time.